Welcome to Boxing During Dinner here from Randazzo'S Little Italy here in Coral Gables, Florida. David's back.
I'm back for
full
good
time.
now.
That's
for
it.
Good now.
No more Rochester.
That's right.
And we have we're gonna talk about Bradley and Pacquiao today. We have Jesse Lozada from Telemundo over here, and we also have Santos Perez from the Miami Herald. But we're gonna begin with some food because we're here at Randazzo'S. Mark Randazzo, as usual, has prepared
That's right. This is a
some very, very good food for us.
Yeah, of course. This is your chance. This is the golden moment.
And Mark, what do we have here? It's the Sicilian vaca frita.
All right.
Our favorite.
By popular
so
demand.
good.
I want to point out, we had a couple people on our YouTube channel comment and say, oh, the looks of it, they weren't sure. And I would challenge them to come in here and taste it and tell me they've found anything better than this they've eaten possibly ever.
Yeah, it's ridiculously good.
And it even photographs well. Like,
as
this
always.
Photoshop. He puts it on the plate. I show it to you now. It looks good. Very photogenic. Oh man.
And Alex will, as always, flash the address.
Sure.
Right
yeah,
here.
It's gonna be right there.
If you're in Miami, come here and eat. It's the best Italian food you'll find.
Corner of Miracle Mile and Lejeune. It's literally in the middle of everything that matters. And go ahead and have Italian food somewhere else, and it won't be nearly as good. And as for the Sicilian vaca frita, not on the menu.
But before we dive into the Sicilian vaca frita and into Bradley Pacquiao, David, this past weekend a quadruple header on
rare.
Showtime. The main event did not live up to. I mean, did it even have hype? Latif Coyote and Antonio Tarver.
It was the fight nobody wanted. I think the reason this card sold, and a lot of credit goes to Eddie Hearn, who's been putting together good cards lately, a lot of good matchups. This on paper, these were good fights, but Latif Coyote actually looked like a coyote in his fight, just totally uncoordinated, a disaster. Antonio Tarver.
Yeah, Tarver, you know, he still could fight, but he's over 40 already.
If he had showed up in the first 6 rounds, this was his fight. He landed the cleaner shots, like he said, but he didn't do that until the round 7 maybe.
I would prefer to watch DVDs of the 3 tenors who are singing right now, Luciano Pavarotti, than watch that fight again.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
But a fight that was worth watching, David. Peter Quillen, who's known as Kid Chocolate, half Cuban, from a Cuban father. He looked pretty good against Winky Wright.
He did. I've already been high on Peter Quillen, but I think he proved again why he is a legitimate contender at 160 pounds. And who knows what happens. Strong, big puncher. Put Winky Wright on the canvas, and that says something.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see after what happens with Chavez versus Andy Lee coming up. I don't think Chavez is ever going to fight Sergio Martinez, so maybe Peter Quillen is that next step up. Chavez has to fight a bigger name. I think Andy Lee is a legitimate opponent for the first time in his career. Chavez, I think, is also the real deal, but a challenge against someone like Peter Quillen, I think, is an even bigger challenge at this point.
And I think Chavez fighting Andy Lee is a bigger challenge than Austin Trout to Canelo, who Austin Trout fought Delvin Rodriguez. It was a horrible fight. He did himself no favors in that fight.
Yeah, if he was trying to position himself for this showdown with Canelo, which he's apparently one of the 3 front runners, he didn't do himself any service. Now, granted, Delvin Rodriguez presented a stylistically difficult opponent for him, but none of the opponents being mentioned at 154 pounds for Canelo are going to make for good TV. And we had a suggestion that we were talking about before the show.
But we'll talk about it later when we involve our panel.
Foreshadowing. You see,
exactly.
That's a technique.
We tease them now. And then we keep them.
Yeah, this is foreplay, and we'll give you the action later.
Alex, flash quick. We still got Jesse and Santos over here.
Yeah, here they are.
But the one guy that did look impressive was Leo Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
Who beat one of the Malingas from South Africa on that card.
This was Vusi Malinga, I believe, but yeah, a bantamweight. The guy came, a perfect opportunity to showcase his skills. I called him a mini Margarito for a couple of reasons. He's a Mexican. He looks like Margarito, fights a little bit like Margarito, but he's a better defender. He's a volume puncher. The guy threw over 1,300 punches in a 10-round fight. I'm sorry, a 12-round fight. Captured, his title and everything in a fight that he says, was sooner than he thought he was going to get a title shot. Came to bat and looked very impressive. I think of all people who showed up on that card, he did himself the biggest favor in the way he fought that night.
Enough about that card. Let's talk about Bradley Pacquiao this Saturday on pay-per-view. It's a big fight, and David, to the fair-weather boxing fan, Pacquiao's still undefeated. He's never lost. The Morales loss never happened. Those 2 knockout losses earlier in his career never happened. They know Pacquiao post the Morales loss. And rightfully so. He's beating everybody in his way. He's looked impressive, has become one of the top pound-for-pound fighters in all of boxing. Is this finally the night that somebody beats Manny Pacquiao, obviously post Eric Morales?
I said this a few months ago that I made one of those bold predictions that Timothy Bradley is going to beat Manny Pacquiao. And that's not because I believe 100% wholeheartedly that will happen, but it is extremely likely that if Manny Pacquiao is not 100%, the person to expose it is going to be Timothy Bradley. Now, you can make arguments for the fact that Bradley swings too widely, he doesn't put his punches together in a straightforward manner, and that Pacquiao will chop him up the middle. That could happen. But I think if Manny Pacquiao is not 100%, and depending on who you ask, he hasn't been 100% maybe his last 3 fights, Timothy Bradley is a dog, and he trains like one. If there's anybody in the fight...
Huge head.
And he has a huge head.
And if he cracks him with that head, he's going to be cut.
It's funny that you would say that. A lot of people make that as a joke and comment, but Pacquiao gets flustered when he's cut, and you saw that against Juan Manuel Marquez. That head is a factor in this fight, whether or not people want to say it's a legitimate one because he's throwing punches. But if Timothy Bradley cuts, Pacquiao legitimately or illegitimately, if you want to call it that, on a headbutt, it changes things. Illegitimate children.
Antonio Cromartie.
Speaking of Evander Holyfield, the bastard machine.
Do you think Pacquiao will go toe-to-toe? Toe-to-toe? No?
He wants to go fight.
Look, and you know I'm as big as a Pacquiao detractor as there is, and the Filipinos hate me, right? And rightfully so.
We're turning into FightHype.com.
but I'm picking Pacquiao to win this fight. It'll be a tough fight. I don't think it'll be easy by any stretch of the imagination. But Pacquiao's a great fighter, and I gave myself in my head every scenario for Bradley to win this fight. I tried to convince myself as much as I could that Tim Bradley will win this fight, but he's shorter than Pacquiao. He's not as good as a counterpuncher as Juan Manuel Marquez, and Pacquiao suffers against counterpunchers. And Pacquiao's still Pacquiao. He's a hard hitter. He's still quick. He still has Freddie Roach. Now he has Jesus on his side for whatever that's worth.
Not Jesus Shuttlesworth, but
Ray Allen.
Yeah,
the Heat fans hate him. But let's bring our guest to the show. We have Jesse Lozada over here from Telemundo. Jesse, the Pacquiao Bradley fight. How do you see the fight turning out? Like I said, a lot of people are picking Bradley in this fight. Are you one of them?
No, I think Pacquiao should win this fight. I think it's more a matter of how he wins this fight. And I think he really needs to put on a good show. His last few fights have been, they've been okay. I mean, his last fight was very exciting, but he didn't particularly look that good. So I think that he really needs a breakthrough fight. And I'm reading through many of the things that Freddie Roach has said. He thinks that Bradley's a perfect guy for him to put on a show. But I also agree with David. He needs to be in good shape. If he's not in good shape, if he's not fully focused on what he's doing, Bradley can definitely pull off an upset with him. I mean, what's Manny Pacquiao's shelf life? We don't know. We don't know. Some boxers last 35 years old, 36, 37, 38, and some don't. And they usually...
Yeah, some become old overnight.
And it's usually, a really, really steep fall. So, it could happen anytime. It could happen in this fight, I mean, we've seen the signs of Pacquiao not being the same Manny Pacquiao that we're used to seeing. So you never know. You never know when it's going to happen, but it's inevitable.
And actually, it's funny Jesse mentions that, Santos, because I was speaking to Mark Randazzo earlier, who, as many of you know, he is obviously he's the owner and chef of this restaurant, but he's also a former fighter, former world title challenger. And Mark said that something that Jesse alluded to, that Pacquiao, his downfall isn't going to be subtle. He thinks it'll be just a fall off a cliff. Do you agree?
I don't think so. I think Pacquiao's the thorn in Pacquiao's career has been Juan Manuel Marquez. Yes, he didn't look that impressive against Mosley, but then Mosley just basically went into a shell halfway through the fight and didn't offer much resistance. Pacquiao dominated that fight, and I thought that Marquez was going to give him a hard fight, even at 147. I don't think it's going to be this fight that we'll see the beginning or the end for Manny Pacquiao. Bradley, he's going to I think he's going to be aggressive. I think he's going to go after Bradley. I don't think he respects Bradley's punch too much. Bradley might be a very good technician, but the head, like you said, David, is a factor. I mean, we recall what happened with the Devin Alexander fight. I thought he would have won that fight, but I think Pacquiao still has enough to take him another 2 or 3 years, perhaps. Maybe not 2 or 3 years, but at least 2 or 3 more big fights left for him to stay on top.
No, I've one of the questions that I've been thinking, and oddly enough, this is the first time I think in recent memory that people are not already looking forward to a Floyd Mayweather-Manny Pacquiao conversation the way that they have in recent fights. Now, my question to you guys is, you said yourself that Pacquiao, you believe, has 2 to 3 big fights left. At this point, what is he fighting for, and who would he be fighting against if he were to pull off this Bradley fight, as many expect him to?
Pacquiao can carry a show. I mean, obviously, now he and Mayweather right now are the pay-per-view attractions. You have Amir Khan moving up. That could be an attractive fight. Another fight with Marquez will definitely sell because of what's happened in the other 3 fights. So I think right there you have 2 possible big fights that Pacquiao could still have beyond Saturday.
And Jesse, that Marquez fight, the 4th fight, is something that has been discussed for November. You were there at the Marquez Pacquiao 3rd fight with a Telemundo producer who will not be named. And from what I've heard, because I wasn't there, from what I've heard, everybody in attendance thought that Marquez won the fight. Do you think it's worth a fourth fight for Marquez?
Well, I think it's worth a fourth fight if they don't do it in Las Vegas. I mean, doing it again in Las Vegas is a waste of time. It's going to be the same thing. I think every rival is different, and some guys have somebody's number, and I think Marquez has Manny Pacquiao's number, no matter whether he's in good shape or bad shape or what.